And there are all these local things. This is an amazing thing that's starting to happen in New York. I don't know if it's come to Brazil yet. There are all these kind of gourmet food trucks that are starting to populate the streets of New York. You know, we used to have ice cream trucks where the kids would, they would hang out outside of the park and you'd hear that annoying little song that they would play, and the kids would get ice cream. And that worked because you knew there were always going to be children at the playground or at the park, and so you could put your truck right there. And so that made sense as a business. But if you had kind of a more gourmet truck that was selling to nicer food to a non-child audience, and you wanted to roam around the city, it was a little bit hard because it was very hard to get people to come to your truck or know where you were that day and things like that. But Twitter and Facebook have changed all that, and now you have something like this is the waffle truck that travels around New York and Manhattan and Brooklyn, and they of course have their own Twitter account, and they're announcing where they're going every day, and they've got 5,000 followers, 5,000 people following a truck. That is what it's come to, right? And so they're able to kind of get word out, and people are excited when they come to their neighborhood and they get out there and they can do special offers and things like that. And so there's this kind of weird little local micro community that's forming around this truck. And again, this is not something that they thought of when they were starting Twitter. The other thing I found is that Twitter is a great resource for just asking people questions. I mean, I'm often kind of sitting somewhere and thinking, gosh, I wonder what the best route for this is, or I wonder what people think about this, or I wonder what the best, I want to buy a new MacBook and I'm thinking about this, what should I do? And then I think, oh wow, I've got 1.5 million people right here in my pocket who, some of them are going to have great answers to this question. And so, like just the other day I talked about Max Fiber in last night's speech, and I had written about him extensively, but I wasn't sure how to pronounce his name. And so I said, hey Twitter, how do you pronounce Max Fiber's name? And I got 30 responses within 5 minutes. Now that's partially because I have a lot of followers, but that's going to become increasingly common. And I just did a couple of searches. Sometimes people say hive mind when they ask these questions, which is kind of a term from, I think Kevin Kelly popularized it, and it's a term I use a little bit in Emergence, which is basically the collective mind of people on Twitter. So these are just some of the queries that I found. Hey, hive mind, big question for you. Name me a great big classic work of literature with a lady heroine. And then somebody will be like, dear hive mind, if a person didn't have a TV, which Olympic moments are must-sees? Hive mind, hip and cheap outdoor dining chairs. Everything, people are asking all these different questions. And this one, greetings hive mind. Has anyone flown Virgin America from JFK to LAX? It is nice, now you know why you signed up to follow me. This tweet is from John Hodgman, who is the actor and comedian who plays PC in the Mac versus PC ads in the United States. And is also a regular on The Daily Show, a very funny guy. And he also started this use for Twitter, which I've never seen anybody else do since, which is that he live tweets from his Scrabble games with his wife, Scrabble with the letters. So he'll get a hand on Scrabble and he'll say, I have 4 I's plus a U and an O and a blank. P.S. if I'm playing Scrabble with you, do not read this. And people will tweet back suggestions of what he can spell with that and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's really going to take off. But so you can see there's just amazing diversity in uses for this stuff coming in all these directions. And I think as we get more and more geographically aware, and it becomes more and more common to include geographic data in your tweets, people who are thinking about real-world communities, physical spaces, particularly dense populated city centers, are going to have just an amazing set of opportunities for using this technology and pushing it in new directions. So I promised you that I would say a little bit about emergencies and do both emergence and emergencies. So I wanted to say first that we have already seen that when extraordinary and often horrible breaking news happens, the social networks are extremely fast at getting the word out. When earthquakes happen, the news gets out through Twitter and Facebook at really an exceptional speed. It really is faster than cable news, and you can see a lot of that information is being disseminated. Sometimes it's inaccurate, sometimes it's noisier than traditional news, but we've seen that word gets out very quickly through these services. But I think the most interesting recent development in terms of to the power of networks in this thing, is the texting donations that came out after the Haiti earthquake. How many people use text messaging to donate money to Haiti relief efforts? Does anybody do that? Okay, you all are very bad people. No. No. What happened was basically the Red Cross and a number of other services discovered that you could basically contribute charitable donations to relief efforts in Haiti and other places by texting a message to a number, and then it would automatically deduct $10 from your phone bill. So there wasn't any credit card implementation. You didn't have to give some, show up somewhere and write somebody a check. You didn't have to go through the mail. You could just literally pick up your cell phone and text message Haiti to this number, and $10 would immediately go to that cause, right? The word got out about this in large part through Twitter and Facebook, and people were passing around these links right after the earthquake happened, saying, "Hey, text message this, and you can donate $10." And it was, the top topic on Twitter for days and days and days. And it turned out over the first couple of weeks after that, exclusively through that text messaging system, the Red Cross raised $30 million. So you could see this kind of instantaneous, phone-based, social network-enabled micro donations can raise very large sums of money in a very short amount of time with almost no kind of institutional support. You don't need to kind of build a whole call center. You don't need to do anything. You basically need to set up the kind of connection to that particular text message number and then let it go viral on the networks. If you've got a good cause, it can bring in a lot of money, even in these small little micro donations. That was a very telling response. And what it makes me wonder is, can we use these kinds of systems to build support, maybe to build financial support for smaller events and for smaller causes and more local causes? I think that is going to be one of the places where we're really ripe for breakthrough work to happen. And I bet there are people in this room who could be uniquely talented at making something like this happen, right? So it's not, there's a giant earthquake, we need to raise $30 million. It's, hey, we're trying to find funding for this new playground, we're having this event right now, or this one thing just happened in our community and we need $1,000 for it. We now have the ability to send out messages to people based on geography. So you can send out messages to people within a certain geographic range. You can limit it to social networks of people who are inside a certain geographic range. We've got that easy payment mechanism. Maybe there's something there that we can do for the small emergencies, the small needs of local life. It's not just about the global catastrophes, but the things happening around the corner. And in a way, the best model for this is a new service called Kickstarter. And Kickstarter is one of my favorite things. It just kind of makes a smile come on my face every time I think about it. What Kickstarter is they sometimes call it micro-patronage. And the idea is that anybody who has a project they're working on, and a lot of these projects are creative, they can go to Kickstarter and say, I need $10,000 to finish recording my album. Or I need $3,000 for supplies so that I can do this giant painting that I want to do. Or I'm starting a club that's going to help kids in this neighborhood. I need $500 for equipment to start it up. You put a little notice of it on Kickstarter. And what Kickstarter does is that it helps with the financing process. They promote it, but they create a system where people can pledge money to your project, and their credit cards won't be charged until you've raised your target amount. So if you say, I need $5,000 to do this, people can pledge $5, they can pledge $10, they can pledge $30, but they won't actually pay that money until you've reached your goal of $5,000. So nobody's going to pay $50 for something that actually doesn't get built.